We're talking about hope, and through the book of 1 Peter, not so much looking at 1 Peter verse by verse as much as we're looking at the theme of hope and how it plays out in 1 Peter. So we're talking about hope, and hope is a big deal in our lives, isn't it? Maybe a bigger deal than you think. I mean, hope is why people get married. Hope is why people have children. Hope is why they pay their children to go to university. Hope is why people buy gym memberships and ab machines. Hope is why people pay for makeovers and buy self-help books. Hope is why people buy lottery tickets and go to counselors and play the stock market and go on blind dates. Hope is why 55,000 fans filled the Rogers Center watching the Blue Jays in the World Series last night. A collective groan. And hope is why we read the Bible. Hope is why we pray. In one sense, hope is why you're here this morning. We hope, and we have hopes. And there's a lot of things that we don't know about each other in this room. A lot of things I don't know about you, but one thing I do know is that you've got hopes. Because our spirit, as a human being, cannot live without hope, any more than your lungs can live without air. But the biblical idea of hope that we've been talking about is very poorly served by the English word hope. Our English word, the word hope, connotates uncertainty, doesn't it? If someone says, "Do you know that this is true?" You're going to say, "Well, I don't know that it's true, but I hope that it's true." You see? Uncertainty. But biblical hope is different. And biblical hope, I like this definition, biblical hope is a life-shaping certainty about something that I know is going to happen, that I know is going to take place. A life-shaping certainty. So, to sort of kick off this message, I want you to use your imagination. Imagine two people in two identical rooms where they're going to work. Same size of room, same temperature, same humidity, same everything, and they're going to do the exact same job. What they're going to do is they're going to screw part A into part B over and over and over again. 8 hours a day for an entire year. Some of you are like, that sounds like my job. Stay with me. Everything's identical. 2 rooms, exactly the same. The job is the same except for one difference. The person in the first room is told this: at the end of this year, you will have made $10,000. But the person in the second room is told, at the end of this year, you will make $10 billion. Now is it the same job? Well, not really. Because partway through, the second day, the guy in the first room is phoning his mom and saying, "Mom, this is terrible. It's soul-crushing. Get me out of this job. It's torture. Give me any kind of job. I'll go back to school. I'll do whatever I have to do." But in the second room, the guy who's going to make the $10 billion, he's smiling. He's humming. Someone says, "How can you stand doing this monotonous work?" And what does he say? "Oh, it's not so bad. Actually, it's pretty manageable. I've already picked out my Lamborghini that I'm going to get. Given it a name, already thought about the island that I'm going to buy," right? It's completely the same circumstances, completely different experience. Why? Because of this. Your believed in future determines your present reality. And Peter calls this kind of hope that we as followers of Jesus have, he calls it living hope. And last week we looked at a few things that were true about this hope from the first part of 1 Peter, and that is that it's anchored in the past. We have this hope, and Peter says earlier in verse 3 of chapter 1, he says it's a living hope. He says it's based on the resurrection of Jesus. So it's based on an actual fact that took place in the past. Your hope is based on something in the past, what has already been done. Christ has been risen, death has been defeated, the battle has been won. It's not speculation, it's actually confidence that this took place. But he says because of that, it's also true that secures your hope into the future. And so last week we talked about how our hope is an imperishable, undefiled, and unfading inheritance kept in heaven, in the future, for you. And we celebrated that in this world because everything else decays and everything else disappoints and everything else falls apart, but not our inheritance. It's secured in the future. And then this living hope is also active in the present. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The passage that we looked at last week talked about how our hope is guarded, and also we are guarded by God's power through faith. That hope is not passively waiting for something that might happen someday. It's confidence, it's active confidence about what is going to happen. And the point for us today is that hope changes how we face life now. You could put it this way, and maybe this is kind of if you need to take something from this message, this is it. Your future determines your present in far more ways than you probably ever realize. And your future in Christ is not a distant destination. It's actually the most active and transforming force in your present life. And when you set your hope on the right future, it will reach back and it will transform how you live this moment and this moment and this moment. You see, I think sometimes we sell hope short. There's a lot of things that are true about hope and a lot of things that are celebrating, but oftentimes we just focus on one aspect of hope, and that is that hope is like a finish line, right? It's this amazing finish line where finally our hopes are realized, and we celebrate that. We sing about that. Yesterday we had a funeral service that celebrated this, that Rob Baker has finished. He crossed the line, and our hope is for what awaits on the other side of the finish line. But hope is far more than that. And that's what I want you to discover. I think some of us, we just think hope is like, oh, it's heaven. It's going to heaven someday when you die. It's more than that. I was trying to think of images to try to describe to you how much more active hope is. I came up with a couple. I'll try them out. One is that hope, I think, is an engine. Any of you who are going through grief or you're going through sorrow, you know that the hope of the future is an engine that enables you to keep going. It enables you to start again. It enables you to resist temptation. That's what hope does. It's like power for life now. But other ways I thought of hope, I think of hope as also like a GPS. Hope is like it's guiding me how to make decisions today because of where I want to end up. And I know I'm going to end up there, so that it works backwards in time and enables me to make wise decisions today, knowing where my hope is. It's like a GPS through your life. Your hope can guide you in your decisions. One more. If those didn't fit for you, maybe this one would. I think hope is like a Wi-Fi network. Hope is it's like we have access to a network of resources connected to eternity that are available for us right now. And that creates all kinds of new possibilities because you are connected to a future that enables you today to have all kinds of resources that other people do not have because of your hope. It's like a network. I was trying to think, one last one. I think hope for a Christian person is actually, and I don't know how to put this in a picture, but it's like an infrastructure. Hope is not like the finish line only. It's the infrastructure for your entire walk with Jesus. And your entire walk with Jesus runs, travels, moves, drives on hope. And all of that is why Peter wants his readers who are going through a tremendously difficult time in life, probably being persecuted, certainly being ostracized, going through all kinds of grief and difficulties because they believe in Jesus. And he turns to them and he says this, and this passage is where we'll hang out today. Starting in verse 13 of chapter 1, it says this. Peter says, in light of this living hope that you have, here's what I want you to do. He says, therefore, and he says, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. Set your hope. That's the first thing I want us to do, is to set our hope. It's kind of some of you maybe remember the King James version of this verse. I do, because I always thought it was a little bit both awkward and maybe a little bit inappropriate. I wasn't sure when I was growing up, but the King James Version says this. It says, therefore, gird up the loins of your mind. Like I said, possibly inappropriate, a little bit weird to say. Gird up the loins of your mind. Well, what does that mean? Well, in those days, if you were the way that you would dress is you would dress in long robes, okay? And if you wanted to move, if you wanted to run, if you wanted to work, what would you have to do? You would have to tuck your robes in, maybe to your belt. You'd have to straighten them out. You'd have to get arrow. You would have to gird up the loins because you needed to run. And if you didn't gird up your loins, then you would trip. There'd be all this drapey stuff hanging down and you'd wipe out. So gird up your loins, and so what he's saying is, gird up the loins of your mind, So if there's something that's tripping you up, get rid of it. Move it out of the way. If there's something that's causing you to slow down, something that's causing you to maybe get hurt, gird up the loins of your mind. Make your mind alert. Make it fully sober, and here's what you do. You set your hope on the grace that is to come. So mentally, we get rid of anything that will drag us down, the things that could trip us up, impede forward progress, and we set our hope. Because if you don't set your hope on this, you're going to set your hope on something else, and you're going to start tripping over things. You're going to fall down. You're probably going to hurt yourself. So if you set your hope on what the news tells you, you're going to wipe out, aren't you? Or what endless scrolling on social media tells you. You'll be filled with anxiety and regret. So instead of being mentally sprawled out or tripping over everything and vulnerable to every passing fear, Peter says, set your hope. Because the world is after your hopes. I don't know if you've thought about this. The world is after your hopes. In fact, one of the great temptations in our life is to put our hope in other things besides the grace to be revealed, grace to come when Jesus is revealed. The world is after your hope. In fact, it's competing for your hope. This is one of the most dangerous things that sometimes we don't even recognize is happening. We're being discipled to have small hope. Let me give you some examples. When you open your Amazon.ca account or you go to a shopping mall, what's happening? Well, one, you're being trained in consumerism because every page on Amazon and every store in the mall says you're incomplete without this purchase, right? You just need to buy this, and here's what it's telling you. Your future will be fulfilled. You'll have a good future if you just buy this, right? And it does feel good for a little while to buy it, right? You're being trained. Your hopes are being trained every time we go shopping. Well, what about this? What about social media? Well, among the other things that social media is dangerous for, it's dangerous because it's trying to steal your hope. It's training you to be envious and live a life of comparison, to recognize that your life is not as good as somebody else's life. And what it's saying is your future will be better, will be validated if you get enough likes or you get enough people following you. It's trying to train your hope. It's trying to shift your future. Or what about the news? Well, for a lot of us, the news is nothing more than an outlet that is training us for outrage and fear. I don't know about you, but those are basically the two things that happen when I watch the news. I get ticked off and I get fearful about what's coming. It's training us to be like that. It's basically saying, be afraid, be very afraid, right? And it's saying your future is threatening. You better panic now. You better hide now. You better store up things now in this world because your future is not going to be good. It's training you to have a smaller hope. And so Peter says, gird up the loins of your mind, he says, or fix your mind. He says, set your hope. And it's a countercultural strategy. It's a daily choice. Basically what you're saying is, I'm going to take the compass of my hope and point it to a different star than the rest of the world. And that's why you feel like you're a foreigner sometimes in this world. I could put it lots of ways, but as a pastor, I really feel this passionately because for a lot of us, and I know a lot of you in this room, the greatest tool of the evil one is to cause you to lose your hope. And so you start to believe lies about your future. Like I'm stuck where I am. Or it's too late for me. Or after what I've done, I'll never be able to, I'm trapped. I'm too old. I'm too sinful. I'm not worthy to be loved. And what's happening is he's draining your hope. And Peter says, set your hope. That's your job, friends. Set it. Make it firm. Set it. And set it on the grace to be brought to you. Because the other tool of the devil is not just to try to suck out your hope through his lies. The other tool of the devil is to have you put your hope in something that is temporary and something that is only in the present moment. So he wants you to put your hope in your family and your career and your abilities and your physical abilities and your amount of money you have and the giftedness you have. And Peter says, set your hope fully, 100%. Put all of your hope on this, he's saying. Because for a lot of us, the reason that we are so ticked off or disappointed or sad in life is because we put our hope in the wrong things. You hoped for your political party to bring change. You're disappointed. You hoped that your job would bring you meaning. And now you're disappointed. Or you hoped that you would have a raise. Or you hoped that you would have a relationship. Or you put your hope in the people of this world and they disappointed you. Or she didn't love you back. Or he didn't even look at you. They didn't choose you. Or people in this world are making terrible choices and you're devastated. Why? Because you've not set your hope on what Peter tells you to set your hope on, and that is the grace of Jesus Christ that is coming. And so you're devastated and you're disappointment and you're carrying burdens this morning, and the problem is that you set your hope on something too small. And Peter says, get your mind alert and set your hope fully. Set your hope fully. I read this passage to our executive director, Chris Fong, this morning because he came in and said, yesterday, man, it was a tough day. The Flames lost, the Stampeders lost, the Jays lost. He was feeling kind of sad. I said, well, here's what you need to do. Set your hope. Not on those guys. Set your hope on the great. But now you must be holy in everything you do, just as God chose you. God who chose you is holy. For the scriptures say, you must be holy because I am holy. So what is he saying? This hope that you have now set your mind on is going to change your character. And holy doesn't mean sanctimonious. It means set apart for a special occasion. So a violin is holy to the purpose of music. A scalpel is holy to the purpose of surgery. And you are set apart, you are holy to the purpose of living out your hope. Or as Wendell Berry used to say, you are set apart to practice resurrection with your life. Resurrection living. And here's the thing I want you to get today. This is probably the revolutionary part for me anyways. You don't become holy by trying harder. You become holy by letting your future pull you forward to live a certain way. And what's your future? Your future, your destiny is to be completely and joyfully like Jesus. That's your destiny. That's your inheritance. That's where you're going. In fact, that's who you are. That's where you come from. That's who you are. So holiness is simply practicing today the person that you will certainly be tomorrow. Do you see? Holiness isn't like a difficult moral achievement. It's actually just conformity to your future. So he puts it this way. Other translations say the passions of your former ignorance, or slip back into your old ways. Well, what was the old way? It was like computer software that used to work a long time ago for you. But now you've had new software uploaded. And Peter is saying, now you run on a different operating system. And now when it comes to holiness, it's not that you try to be holy so you can get to heaven. You be holy because you're from heaven. You're citizens of heaven. So act like who you are. When you live as a foreigner, as someone set apart because of your future, holy living is actually the way that we answer Jesus' prayer when he says, Father, may your kingdom come, may your will be done on earth in you as it is in heaven. That heaven would come to earth because of how you live. This is helpful to me because it changes the way that I think about my sin. When I sin, I'm not just falling short of who I should be, and I'm not just failing. When I sin, I'm acting inconsistent with who I already am. and who I am going to fully be. Do you see? So when you choose integrity instead of cheating, you're not just being good. You're actually living your hope. You're living out your hope because you're practicing the economics of the new creation. When you practice generosity, when you give away your money, instead of accumulating or storing it or spending it all on yourself, what are you doing? Well, you're not just being generous, you're practicing the abundance of the future kingdom now. Do you see? The Roman world in which Peter is writing to said, you can't love your enemy, overtake the world. That's not how human nature works. But Christians said, actually, we're going to do it anyways. And they loved their enemies, not because they were trying harder, because they had better ethics, but because they were operating from a future where enemy love is the atmosphere, the default condition. So they weren't achieving something just difficult in the present. They were importing something that's normal from their future. They were living out their hope. And so the present world says you can't forgive somebody unless they earn it, unless they apologize at the very least, unless they change. That would violate the economics of justice in this world. But a Christian says, listen, I can forgive, not because I'm achieving something, because it's an expression of my hope. Because in the future, where my citizenship lies, all the debts have been canceled. So I look at every debt, even the personal debts, differently because of that. Or the present world says, listen, death is the final word. The ultimate loss renders things meaningless. And Christians instead are incredibly calm when they face death. It almost looks like they're in denial, but they're not. They're not pretending death isn't real, but they're operating from a future where death has already been defeated, where death has already turned into a comma, not a period, where they've seen the final chapter. They know that death is not there, so the power of death in the present becomes provisional, becomes temporary, becomes only a transition to more life. So if you want to be holy, and we do, and we're called to be holy like God is holy, here's how you do it. Live out your hope. Live out your hope. Get your hopes up so that the future is so clear that you've set your hope on that you begin to live out of it today. It's going to affect your character. We don't have time to go through all the other ways that are in this passage, but it's also going to affect your relationships. He puts it this way: you were cleansed from your sin when you obeyed the truth. So now you must show sincere love to each other as brothers and sisters. Love each other deeply. In other words, because of your hope, your holiness is going to be different because your future is pulling you to make decisions of holiness. He's also saying your relationships are going to be dramatically changed. You're going to love because that's what the future is. You're going to forgive people because that's where your future lies. You're going to reconcile with people and love them deeply because that's your future. You're going to love people from all walks of life because that's your future. Your future is going to be filled with those people. So the hope of that future empowers us to live today a preview of what is coming. You know how you go to a movie, you pay your $50 and then you pay your $30 for your popcorn, and then you walk in and you sit there and you get to watch what? You get to watch a preview of coming attractions, right? And sadly, sometimes the coming attractions, that's the best part of the movie. But you get to see a little glimpse of what's coming in the future. Friends, that's what the church is. We are giving the world a glimpse of the future. We are a preview of coming attractions. That's what we are. And so when heaven finally touches, I just had this image this week. When heaven finally touches earth and brings, heaven down to earth and the earth is finally restored, people will look around and see how glorious heaven is, and then they're going to turn to Bow Valley Christian Church and say, that's what you were up to. We saw that coming in this church, right? We saw that coming. Because they saw, that's us. That's your relationships, a preview of coming attractions. Well, hope changes today if you let it, if you know where your hope is set. And then what happens? Well, skipping a few amazing verses, we move on to the first part of chapter 2, and it says this: and when you set your hope and you live out your hope, He says, crave spiritual milk so that it may grow up. And now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. What a great definition of what it means to live by hope. Have you tasted it? Maybe you've tasted the peace of hope in this world. And even though the present is tumultuous and evil and decaying, you have a peace because you know this present is real, but it's not ultimate. And your hope gives you peace. And you're like, oh, that's so good. More of that, please. Or maybe you've tasted the joy of hope. And like yesterday, a lot of us went to a funeral. Lots of times I've been at gravesides and I felt incredible joy. Why? Because that loved one is receiving their inheritance. And I'm tasting the joy of hope right here, right now. Oh, God is good. More of that, please. Or you taste the experience of love, the love of hope. And somebody forgives you. And you say, oh, that was heavenly. I didn't deserve that. Or somebody is able to offer you patience. And you're like, oh, I didn't deserve that. Why? Why were they able to do that? Because God is good. And you're tasting in this slice a glimpse. You're tasting the goodness of God's hope right here, right now. And it tastes so good. And he says, once you taste it, working backwards in this verse, he says, then you're going to crave more of it. Isn't that true? Some of you have tasted some food, or you've been to some restaurant, and you're like, oh, now that I have a taste, I want more. I want more of that. I can't wait to go back to that. And so he says this, once you taste it, you're going to crave it. Like a newborn baby, you're going to crave spiritual milk so that you may grow up into your salvation. Like you tasted how good God was. You tasted what hope is like. You just got a glimpse of it. You just got an hors d'oeuvre of your future bliss. You just got an appetizer of what's coming, and you're like, oh, that's so good. God is so good. You want more, don't you? Bring it on. Bring it on. You want more. And that's what happens. Your appetites change. Because before, you used to really, really hope for a bigger paycheck or more influence or the right girl or person to love you in the right way or the right changes in the economics of this world or the politics of this world. But now, you've tasted God's goodness as you live out your hope, and you want more of that hope to be realized. I'll put it this way. I don't know if this will resonate with you, but as I was thinking about this passage, I just thought it's kind of the living hope works like this. You set your hope fully on the grace to come, and then you live it out in your holiness. You live it out by loving each other deeply. You live it out in the way you interact with people. And as you live out your hope, you taste the goodness of hope. You experience the goodness of God. And that in turn, once you get a taste, you can't help yourself. You want more. I'll take more of that, please. Second helping, please. I'll take more of that. It's this upward spiral. And this circle, to me, is like a spiral that goes up and up and up until finally the day comes where you don't just crave hope and set your hope, you realize your hope. And you cross the finish line. And so, friends, my encouragement to you today is your future in Christ is not just a distant destination. It's the most active and transformative force in your present life. Because of your future. And you know who showed us what our future is like? Best was Jesus. What did Jesus do? Jesus went around on this earth healing people. Why? It was a sign of your future where there will be no sickness and pain. Right? What did Jesus do? Jesus cast out demons. Why? Because he wanted us to see that our future is a place where there's no confusion and no evil. Jesus calmed the storm. Why? Because our future is a place where the curse on the weather patterns and the curse on this earth is gone. And there is peace in nature. And Jesus cast out demons, and Jesus loved the outcast, and Jesus loved the worst of society and the least of society. Why? Because in the future, every soul will feel its worth. And Jesus gave us a glimpse of that. And Jesus forgave sin, because the future is a place where all the sins are forgiven. And Jesus walked out of the tomb. Why? Because your future does not contain death. And Jesus has a resurrected body because your future is a resurrected body that works perfectly. And Jesus lives in glory with the Father. Why? Because that's your future. When you read the story of Jesus, you get a preview of what's coming. It's amazing. Can you see it? Could you live it? Could you crave it? Set your hope today.